What is good, everybody? Welcome to the Gold Standard Podcast. I'm Rob Stats Guerrera alongside Levin Black. Levin, it's Thursday of Ravens week. I can't believe we're here. This is almost like a playoff game.
I'm just disappointed because we can't be live for once.
I know. I blame you.
And it's completely my fault. Because, spoiler alert, look behind the curtain. We're recording Wednesday night because I work all day Thursday. So,
boo, boo. Should still like
damn that work.
You and your real job.
Yeah.
We're going to get into, obviously, everything to do with the Ravens game. There's a clip going around that looks like it might be trash talk from Marlon Humphrey, but you and I are kind of taking a different tact. We'll play the clip for you so that you can decide. We'll get into, obviously, a lot from that Ravens game. Plus, Levin has some third quarter stats that he claims are going to blow my mind, and you look pretty confident, I have to say.
I mean, it's not that hard.
Well,
I'm kind of wisdomous, as they say.
Oh, God. Okay, so clearly we have a lot to do. Before we get to any of that, however, I want to give a shout out to our friends over at Community Tree Service. They're our new YouTube sponsor. We could not be more excited to partner with them. And if you live anywhere from the Central Coast to the Bay Area and you need any kind of work done to your yard or maybe your office or wherever, check out Community Tree Service. They do tree trimming, they do land clearing, they do hazard tree removal, home fire hardening, and debris removal. Estimates are free, by the way. Call 831-763-2391 or email estimating@cts831.com to schedule an appointment. And here's basically my favorite thing ever, Levin. If you mention you're a Niners fan, you get $200 off your quote. If you mention that you're a Seahawks, Cowboys, or Eagles fan, you have to pay $200 more, which is just fantastic. I appreciate the love and the respect. Community Tree Service is licensed by the California State License Board, license number 1100816. You got any trees you need removed?
First off, I thought I was your favorite thing. Second thing, I do have trees that need removed, but unfortunately, I don't think they're willing to travel like 2,500 miles to do them.
No, you never know. But definitely check out Community Tree Service LLC. You could see the emails up on the corner of the screen. Their logo is there. It'll be there all show long. Let's start with the clip that everyone's talking about, Levin. Marlon Humphrey on his podcast, the Punchline Podcast. To be fair to some people, the Punchline Podcast themselves has taken like the juiciest part of this clip and they have put it out there for people to see. And it worked, by the way, because I saw the clip and I was like, what the hell? I can't believe he just said that. So I went to grab the clip. But when you listen to the full context, it changes it a little bit. What was your first reaction when you saw the clip?
I saw the clip and I saw his demeanor. And I was like, that seems like sarcasm. And then, so the first one I saw, somebody took the short clip, which was only 25 seconds.
Right.
And they shortened it to 9 seconds to make it even more controversial, which annoyed the heck out of me. Because I saw the 9 second, I was like, that's weird. And I clicked it to see what the comments were, and it was deleted. And I was like, oh. And then I scrolled down, and like 4 posts later in my feed or earlier in my feed was the 25-second clip that the podcast showed. And I was like, and that confirmed my suspicion. I believe he was being sarcastic.
Okay. So what I have done is I've pulled a clip. It's around a minute or so long, which I know is kind of long, but we can talk. It's about 53 seconds, actually. We can talk if we want to chime in. But let's play the clip for people so you can see what we're talking about and decide for yourself. Here's Marlon Humphrey on the Punchline Podcast.
Everyone will want to know going into this big matchup.
I don't respect them.
Keep talking.
Yeah. No, man.
Shout out. Who don't you respect?
No, I don't respect a single person on their football team.
Yeah. Frauds.
Like, literally.
Yeah.
No, but seriously, I'm excited for this one. I mean, their defense is crazy. So, but their offense is like, our offense is going to I'm not going to say they're going to struggle, but they're going to have to put some work in it to score points. So, the defense got to come ready. But they just got key playmakers. Christian McCaffrey scores every single freaking game. Debo, Ayuk, Kittle. I mean, they got.
So that's the clip. When you see the full clip, to me, he's clearly not trying to talk trash. He literally says, no, but seriously. So to me, it was a funny line to grab your attention. Marlon Humphrey's a pretty good podcast host, but I don't think he was trying to disrespect the 49ers in any way.
And the host goes on to be laughing and says, oh, yeah, frauds.
Right.
They're not calling them frauds. Marlon Humphrey is a veteran. He's not dumb enough to put stuff out there like that. In seriousness, even if there's somebody he thinks, let's just say, for instance, there's somebody he thinks is trash on the 49ers. He's not going to put that out there.
Yeah, I agree. I think that he's literally counting up the good players on the team. And then it's like, oh, damn, they have a lot. So I don't think this was trash. Excellent job by Marlon Humphrey to create a clip that I didn't even know he had a podcast. So there you go. I agree. I don't think that he would do that, especially you saw what the 49ers did to the Cowboys. You saw what the 49ers did to the Eagles. Even if you think that, there is just no benefit whatsoever to throwing it out there. So I hope that people could see the longer clip somewhere, because if you do, I think you would feel similar to how we feel.
And I'll just say, shame on you if you're cutting it up and shortening it to try to make it more controversial. Just play it for the truth of it. Don't try to make something that's not real. Don't take stuff out of context. That's prime example of taking something out of context.
Yeah, you have to go and seek it out if you want to see it. Because my first reaction was would he really say that so blatantly like that? And so some people don't, though. Some people are just hey, I saw the clip and he's a jerk, and let's go get him, and let's tag every 49ers player on Twitter and try to. No, come on. Look, we get fired up about a lot of stuff on this show, and I probably get fired up about too much stuff on this show, to be honest with you.
No, never.
Shut up.
But
this ain't
this is news to me.
Yeah.
Do our listeners out there agree? I can't believe it.
All right, look at you. You're at peak 4. Obviously not too sick anymore.
I am actually still quite sick, but yeah.
Yeah, now you've transmitted it to me somehow over the airwaves. You're starting to get me sick, which is not what we need right now going into Christmas. But let's dive into this Ravens game a little, because this is just going to be so much fun. You've got a team,
I hope. This is one of the few teams this is one of the probably 2 or 3 teams in the league that I think right now are capable of getting a lead on the Niners and just keeping it and making the game not fun at all for us.
Mina Kimes said, and I kind of agree with her, if you were going to construct a team to face the 49ers, it would be this Ravens team, because they have Lamar Jackson at quarterback, who is incredibly mobile, incredibly elusive, but also can really throw the ball, change his arm angle, all that stuff to terrorize the defense. You've got pass rushers along the defensive line that can get home without having to blitz. You have very versatile linebackers, and you have a safety in Kyle Hamilton, who is a freaking monster. Incredibly, he's like Hufanga plus, basically. So that's why it's going to be a real test.
Yeah, I mean, they're really only missing 2 things from being, I think, as dominant and have no answers for team as the 49ers. Their running backs aren't quite there, and they've had injuries there to make it even worse.
Mm-hmm.
And their wide receivers are just Odell Beckham. He's not a bad receiver. He's not a star anymore. It's what I think they're weak on. It's what holds that offense back from being truly dominant, is they just don't quite have the playmaker aspect. But outside of that, I mean, you could call it pretty much a wash when you measure them up. Lamar is an MVP caliber quarterback, and he is uniquely special at scrambling and thus thwarting that 49ers defensive line. That's going to be, I think, of all things, offense or defense, number one key is staying disciplined and making Lamar stay in the pocket. Much easier said than done, but I do not think that they can get away with crashing. If you crash and you allow him to escape to the outside, game over.
And they did a good job against Jalen Hurts, but Lamar Jackson is light years faster than Jalen. Like, it's not even.
Well, not only that, I think Lamar is a better quarterback.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
He's better from within the. Jalen Hurts has been exposed the last couple of weeks. That's the blueprint that Nick Bosa was talking about. If you just sit and stay disciplined and make that pocket stay whole so that he can't get out of it, he panics. Jalen Hurts, and this has been broken down on tape by a bunch of people. I've seen multiple people putting it out there this week. Jalen Hurts won't throw from the pocket. He is, even when he could, he tries to bail and get out because all he wants to do is the ad lib. And so he doesn't have the basic quarterbacking. Lamar does.
Yes.
If there is somebody open and he's stuck inside the pocket, he will most likely find it. And, oh, by the way, even if you stay disciplined, he might get away from you.
Even if you're perfect, he could still score it out of there. He's a friggin' wizard back there, man. To me, this is like the Mahomes game.
You're a wizard, Lamar. That's what you're saying.
You're a wizard, Lamar. You have to stay disciplined because he will squeeze every drop of potential that there is out of a play. Like, there's no play where Lamar just drops back and says, you know what? It's not here. I'm going to throw it away and live to. He's going to drop back and look. He's going to go through his reads. He's going to shuffle. He's going to buy time. He's going to roll out. He's going to make you think he's going to pass, but in the meantime, he's going to be gaining yards and gaining speed so that if he decides to run, he's going to take off. So it's going to be one of those frustrating games where every play you're kind of leaning forward in your chair, like, get him. That's why it's just, I think it's going to be a battle.
It's hopefully going to be a fun one. Put it that way. It should be a Super Bowl preview. This is, I think, a little bit of a unique year where there are two teams, one in each conference, that are clearly better than everybody else in that conference in this year. Doesn't guarantee the Super Bowl, but normally you have look at last year. You had the Niners with only 3 losses. You had the Eagles with only 3 losses. You thought, hey, either one of these teams can make it. And some people were deluded enough to think, oh, even the Cowboys might be able to make it, right? But then you have Cincinnati. You had Kansas City. You had multiple teams in the AFC that's like, I don't know who's making it out of here. This year, there are 2 teams, one in each conference, that have separated from the pack, and they happen to be playing on Christmas Day. And you know that the NFL front office is sitting there going, Yahtzee!
Yeah. The rating for this is going to be insane. Yeah. When I looked at it, I mean, technically, it is possible for the 49ers to clinch the number 1 seed this week. They need the Cowboys, Eagles, and Lions to all lose. And because the Niners have the last game of the week, they'll know by the time they kick off whether or not that's possible. You know, if all those scenarios have happened. I don't know if that would change any of their decisions as far as injuries or anything like that. But technically, it is possible for them to lock up the number 1 seed.
Yeah, so I heard you say that with Grant, and I actually thought you took it the wrong way.
Oh, there's a shot.
You used it as they could see that they could lock up the number 1 seed, and thus they might push it a little bit more with some of the injuries and have them play through them to try to lock up that 1 seed. I would see it more as, hey, we got even more cushion now. Let's keep them out. We only need to win 1 of the next 2 games, even if we lose this one.
That's fair. That is true. That's definitely another
angle. Say you were wrong, and I just made you rethink your mind.
Well, but also I want to say, when I said that, I didn't realize that Kalia Davis is now on injured reserve, or was going on injured reserve.
Yeah. Because
now the Niners have a real problem at defensive tackle. Cluster injuries can crush a team.
Yeah.
And I think we saw, I think he only played like 3 snaps against the Cardinals. So he
got hurt quick.
Pretty early in that game, and the Cardinals ran for 234 yards. So that's a huge problem, particularly this week, because the Ravens are the best rushing team in the National Football League. So now if you have a real cluster injury problem at defensive tackle, and that creates a massive hole in the middle of that defense.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if for instance, they go out and sign Ndamukong Suh, as you've previewed, on the 49ers and 5 as a possibility. I wouldn't be surprised if they find somebody to put in there, because they need a body. Even if Hargrave and Armstead make it back healthy, say in another week, they still need a body because they've lost Khalil Davis. So I would argue that was already something that past the first three, with Kinlaw being the third, there wasn't anything capable of really holding up there. And when you saw that because of the injuries this past week, the Cardinals dominated running up the gut. So I think they need to go out and find somebody that's at least capable of holding their ground at the very least.
Right now, the options at defensive tackle are Javon Kinlaw, Kevin Givens, T.Y. McGill up from the practice squad, and I believe Spencer Waggy. I still can't remember how to say his name. Eric Branch did tweet on Wednesday. The Niners will likely sign a free agent if Armstead and Hargrave can't go on Monday. Will that be Ndamukong Suh? We don't know.
No.
Kyle said
not this week.
They hadn't discussed it.
Yeah. Did you see the Suh news?
He visited with Miami.
Yeah. So if he's visiting with Miami, it means the Niners aren't about to sign him. Doesn't mean they won't, but this week I think it's probably out the window.
Probably. And honestly, I did preview this in a 49ers in 5, which is our daily 5-minute update that we do every weekday morning. And half the comments were, he's terrible, I don't want him. Half the comments were, go get him. But to me, it's not a question of like, are you signing peak Ndamukong Suh? Clearly you're not. Are you signing a guy that can be better than your 5th defensive tackle? That's really the question you have to ask yourself. And if the answer is yes, then you should sign him.
Yeah, they should sign him. He is not somebody that you can rely on for 17 games.
Right.
But at this point, he should be fresh enough to where he can be that 4th or 5th option behind Givens, Kinlaw as the 3rd and 4th. Will he sign? I don't know. I wasn't able to find it, but I do remember there being something a couple years ago where Suh said something along the lines that he's not interested in playing out west. I couldn't find it, so maybe that's a figment of my imagination, but normally I'm pretty right when I remember something like that.
I'm pretty right.
Normally I am. I remember him saying something about how he wants to stick to the East. I mean, he's had 3 or 4 free agencies in the last 5-6 years because he's been signing short-term deals, and he's never once gone out west.
And I know that the Niners were interested in him last year, and he ultimately picked Philadelphia. So there may be something to that. I don't know.
Could be. Same with, what's going on with Ertz? I know you.
Yeah.
He was mentioned too, I think, by Jason and Steph on Tuesday, or maybe it was you and Grant. I can't remember. I listened to both of you in the same day, so kind of blends together. But there's not even news of Ertz. I feel like Ertz is just going, I'm good. I'll sign in the last week of the regular season.
Yeah, so I talked to Grant on Wednesday, and he said he hadn't heard a whiff of anything about Zach Ertz. And, it depends what he wants, right? If he's looking to hey, I want to catch on somewhere and, be a part of the offense, that ain't happening here. You're number 6 on the list of priorities in the 49ers offense. Yeah. If you want to go and get a ring, clearly San Francisco is the spot. And we don't know what exactly he's looking for. I know he was frustrated in Arizona because Trey McBride was there, and they were giving McBride a lot of targets because he looks like he's a good young player. So we don't know what he wants. But at this point, Suh is clearly the bigger need. Defensive line is clearly the bigger need than your backup tight end.
There is no other need other than that. Ertz would be a 100% luxury, and I would guarantee the Niners are only offering minimum. So, which at the amount of years of service he has isn't that cheap. Honestly, it is because there's only a few games, but it's not like they can go out and get him for, $1 million. I think it's something around $1.4 million, which then would be prorated. So it's not a huge deal, but they're not going to go out there and say, oh, we'll give you, a prorated deal of worth $3 million or something. They're not going to pay him anything more than they have to.
Yeah.
I feel like Ertz would have signed with Philly, but he's seen what's going on. He's like, nah, I'm going to pump the brakes and see if they figure it out.
I'll just say, I know this is a Niners podcast, but they got all sorts of problems over there. Now their head coach, did you see what he said today on the second interception? He said, we were trying to get a pass interference flag. What?
Great offensive strategy. Yeah.
Okay, man. That just makes me thank God we have Kyle Shanahan. Holy hell.
That team's on the verge. Maybe they figure it out, and this ends up being a blip. but that team certainly feels like on the verge of breaking. Not just like, oh, they can't figure out what's wrong with them, but like having sides drawn, right? Because the coaching is weird. Like there was some criticism. What defensive player was it? I think it was Brandon Graham after this past week said when they talked about like, oh, did you know that they're going to make a defensive change? He said, we didn't really get any input on it, but it's fine. You know, we're going to go with it or something along those lines. So it was clear like that was not a player's input choice.
Look, we probably would have said a lot of similar things, and we freaked out when the Niners had their own 3-game losing streak. So, let's keep a little perspective here, but clearly it's not great. And the one thing you didn't have with the 49ers during the 3-game losing streak was players kind of calling out other players. Like Jalen Hurts sat at the podium in a hat with his own logo on it and said, our players are not all committed. We're not committed enough. It's like, dude, you're wearing your own logo and you're calling out your team. Look, that's their problem. Whatever, like you said, maybe they can get back on track. They certainly have an easy schedule the rest of the way. I believe their remaining schedule is Giants, Cardinals, Giants. So, they could easily right the ship. But I'm just saying,
if they lose any of those three,
right,
it's red alarm sounding. It's massive issues if they lose any of those three. I mean, the Giants, they play them twice. That's the team, if you remember, that the Cowboys have like a plus 80 differential on this season. That's not even an exaggeration. It's pretty close to 80 points, right?
Yeah, they beat the Giants 40-0 in week 1, and then they beat them 49-17 when they played them again.
Yeah, so 72 points is their differential against the Giants this year. So if they lose either one of those, like, they could win the next 2 weeks. If they lose to the Giants in week 17, everybody's going to go, whoa, they really haven't figured things out. I don't know how safe of a bet they are in the playoffs.
Well, I'll say this. I clearly earlier this year, I definitely was afraid of the Eagles. Like, they look like a good team, a tough team, a team that could grind it out in close games, and they look like a shell of themselves right now. And I have to say, like, if you tell me the Niners have to play the Eagles in the divisional round, if the Niners get the number 1 seed, I'm like, okay. Like, I am not worried. I'm sorry. I'm just not that they have a bad team, but their offense, I mean, what? I don't see it.
You'd rather play the Eagles or the Cowboys?
The Eagles. The Cowboys still worry me a little.
The Cowboys have, like, they know that they have to go through the Niners. And until they do, they'll continue to be kind of a laughing stock, the team that everybody kind of laughs off. So I feel like they have much more of a chip than the Eagles do. The Eagles have a little bit of a chip, but right now the Eagles are more like, we can't deal with having a chip against anybody in particular because we have our own problems. Plus, I feel like that Cowboys offense could just figure out the 49ers defense and beat up on them. Like, they're an offense capable of doing that.
I think the Cowboys have a better roster. I really do.
Not that I think that the Cowboys would win, but they scare me more.
Yeah, like, I wouldn't be worried against the Eagles at all. I'd be a little worried against the Cowboys. That's the difference. I'm not, like, in the NFC, I think it's the 49ers to lose for sure. But I think the Cowboys, out of anybody, pose the biggest threat. Like, Detroit, get the hell out of here with Detroit.
I'm not scared against anybody else. Can shit happen? Absolutely. It's the NFL, right? A Giants wild card team not only made it to the Super Bowl, but took down the best team of all time.
Not the best team of all time.
I would argue they still are, honestly.
No, you can't be the best team of all time if you don't win a Super Bowl.
If you're talking about the team that deserves to be called the best team of all time, and what team I would pick if it was a head-to-head battle against all others, that Patriots team, I might be picking them to beat all others.
I'll take the 94 Niners against that Patriot team. Are you kidding me? You put Dion on Randy Moss? That Patriot defense ain't stopping that 94 Niners team. Get out of here.
Maybe not. I think that's a little off topic, but the point was the wild card team came out of nowhere and beat the crap out of everybody and won a Super Bowl in the biggest upset of all time, I would argue, in all of sports, perhaps. So it is certainly possible the Niners could still lose, but nobody scares me. Like they should beat every single team in the NFC right now by double digits.
And they have. In the past 6 weeks, they've beaten every team by at least 12 points.
Right.
I'll say this. The one team that I think has the best shot, the Rams, believe it or not. And I know it sounds kind of crazy because the Niners have beaten them 9 straight times in the regular season. But obviously they have McVay. He knows Kyle well. They have a running game now with Kyron Williams. And Matt Stafford is freaking slinging it, man. He is playing so well. Again, I'm not saying I'm worried about it, but you're telling me who's got a shot? I definitely think the Rams have a much better shot than people think right now because I know their record is not great. And I think they're getting in.
Yeah, I think they're getting in. Stafford still never has and never will scare me because he's going to give you multiple opportunities for interceptions every single game. And this Niners defense is the best at taking advantage of that.
He's been pretty good. 21 touchdowns and 9 picks this year. I don't know. Again, I'm not saying I'm scared of them because I'm not, but I think that they have a much better shot than people think. I would be more afraid of the Rams than I would be of the Lions, for sure.
The Lions don't scare me at all.
Me?
You want to talk about a quarterback gives you multiple chances of a turnover. Jared Goff does it with interceptions and fumbles in the same game.
Yeah. No.
Although Jamari Gibbs, he is special. He's that type that, he suddenly has 2 75-yard touchdowns, and this is a game that we're down in.
Well, and that's kind of what worries you about the Ravens, to take it back to them. I don't want to say this is fortunate because that's the wrong word, but the Ravens just lost their running back, who was an absolute speed demon. Did you see that injury, by the way? It looked awful. His leg kind of got stuck in the turf, and it almost hyperextended his knee. It was
things went past where they naturally should be going. Right. Put it that way.
The bending was not good, but and I think that's a big loss for them because when you had his speed with Lamar's speed in the backfield, you threatened the defense so much that it really created a lot of openings for them, and obviously now they're not going to have that.
Yeah, like you said, it's fortunate. You don't root for it, but it's fortunate for all future Ravens opponents this season. It's fortunate it opens the door a little bit more for Kansas City to figure it out and get into the Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm. Keaton Mitchell is his name, by the way. I should mention his name. Heal up, get better. Like you said, it's not fortunate he got hurt. It's fortunate that for the 49ers, at least, he is not going to play in the game Monday night. I saw an interesting Lamar Jackson stat. I believe it was for, let's see. He scrambles on 11.5% of his dropbacks. He scrambles out of the pocket. I'm a little worried that the Niners are not going to be as disciplined as they need to be on the rush. I think they did it against Jalen Hurts because they were hyper-focused in that game because it was a big, bad revenge game, and it's like, hey, we'll do whatever it takes to win. But like you said, they've kind of gotten away from that. Kyler obviously was able to scramble around, and if Kyler's able to do it, Lamar's going to be able to do it.
For sure. You're not going to stop Lamar from running. It's whether or not he gives you the back-breaking ones. Converting on a 3rd and 12 because he ran for 15.
Oof.
Having a 3rd and 10 where you're about to sack him and he gets away from it and suddenly bombs it deep for 40 yards, right? Those are the ones you can't afford. You can let him get outside of the pocket and get 8 yards on first down. Oh, well. It's the ones that kind of change the momentum and give you the feeling of we just can't win. No matter what we do, this guy's going to convert.
Niners are favored by 5 right now. It was up to 5.5 earlier in the week. Again, we're recording this Wednesday night, so it could change by the time you hear it. 5 points. You going Niners? Or you taking the Ravens in the points?
I'm picking the Niners in every game. They're favored for a reason. So if you're giving me 5 points on top of it, I'm picking the 49ers. That said, if I had to pick a game to not bet on this week, this would probably be the number one game I wouldn't want to bet on this week.
Well, if you're picking the Niners, you have to give the 5. You don't get the point.
Oh, yeah. Right. I'm an idiot.
Yes,
I'll say it. Yes, I'll say it. I'm an idiot. I'm still picking the Niners until they lose. They're winning by double digits in every single game. They're at home. Yeah.
I would agree. I mean, hell, the number I don't love the number, but I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt. I mean, I think to this point they've earned it. Like it's amazing. I was watching the JT O'Sullivan Brock Purdy video, and he showed a couple of the clips where Brock was throwing to Brandon Ayuk, and it's just like even the misses are not really his fault. Like one of the deep balls to Ayuk, JT did a good job of pointing out, like Brandon's not looking at the ball.
Yeah.
He's looking at Brock after Brock's already thrown it.
Talking about the one down the left sideline?
Yes.
Yeah, so that was the one that Ayuk seemed to stumble a little bit, so it seemed overthrown. But he stumbled because he started to like fade to the inside, and then he suddenly located the ball on its way and realized, oh crap, and tried to change his angle and stumbled when he did it. So Brock threw it to the perfect spot.
Yes.
If Ayuk ran that correctly, it's a long touchdown.
Every freaking pass is in the right spot, on target, on time. If I had to summarize Brock Purdy in 4 words, that's what it would be: on target, on time. And when you got a quarterback playing like that, I know Lamar is good, but the script then becomes you have to keep up with us. It's not just we have to keep up with you. And if you got to keep up with us, then you better be Superman Lamar, because if you're not and you punt, you're in trouble.
Yeah, that's the problem when you play the 49ers. You got to stop them, and then you got to go and score. There is no break. It's not, we didn't score in this possession. It's all right. We'll get them next time. It's crap. We didn't score. They're about to either increase the lead or take the lead, right? Every single time. And at the same time, when you score points, say the Ravens score points, it's not, all right, we scored. We're good. It's all right. We scored. Now let's hope they don't outscore us.
Right. It's we scored. Like you have to like sort of exhale. And I will say this too. I'm not so sure
Go ahead.
I'm not so sure the 49ers don't have the better kicker in this game. Justin Tucker has been shaky this year on kicks. He has missed 5 kicks. He's only making 84% of his field goals this year. That's his lowest since 2015 when he made 82%.
So you're telling me you're going to take the rookie kicker over what, 2%? Jake Moody's at 17 of 21. He's at like 86%.
Jake Moody is 71 of 74 on all kicks this year.
Yeah. Do you throw in extra points? Sure. On field goals, what's his percentage?
I don't know off the top of my head.
I'm pretty sure he's 17 of 21 because he was 17 of 20 for a long time.
Well, he hasn't.
Or sorry, 18 of 21 because he made the kick, which would be about 87%.
So on the year, Moody is 85.7%. So clearly better than Justin Tucker by a whole 1%.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So you're going to take the rookie over the best kicker of all time because that best kicker of all time happens to be 1.7% worse this season.
Tucker's 1 of 5 on field goals at 50 yards or more, which is
I don't disagree with you. He might be a little bit cooked, right? He might be past the best kicker in the league point. But when it comes down to it, at this point, like if he was making 75% of his kicks, all right, I get it. But he's barely worse on the season. If it comes down to it, I'm taking Justin Tucker. By the way, I think 2 of his misses are from 60 plus this season because they're still willing to take those and try them. So, yeah, if you're telling me, we got 3 seconds left, 50-yard field goal, you're picking Moody? No way.
I don't know. We'll see. Hopefully it won't come to that. And
We'll see. This is a theoretical. 50 seconds to go, 3 seconds to go, 50-yard field goal. Which kicker are you choosing?
Is it tied or are the 49ers losing?
Oh, my God. Does that matter? You're kicking to win the game.
Yeah, because I feel like if it's tied, I have a little more confidence in Moody. If they're losing, I don't know. I'm just saying, this is not the same Justin Tucker. His field goal percentage has gone down each of the last 2 years. He's a little older. He's 34, which for a kicker, I mean, who knows? But let's just see. That's all I'm saying. But I think it's going to be a fun game. Niners are going throwback, 94 throwback Reds on Christmas Day, kind of like a Christmassy feel to the uniforms. Do you think the Niners will have the Santa hat anywhere on the field?
George Kittle will, because he already wore it this week on Rich Eisen's show.
Yes, I know. If you missed any of that interview, you can check it out in today's 49ers in 5, by the way. I put some clips in there from that interview. He actually had a really good soundbite where he talked about how Christian McCaffrey has gotten better. I don't know. Did you see that clip?
Yeah, I listen to the Rich Eisen show most days.
So what he said was, if you didn't see it, basically that McCaffrey's gotten better at reading the blocks and doing the outside zone run game, which I thought was fascinating. The reason I put it in there is because we don't think of running backs as like having to learn the system and getting better in a system. We think of them as kind of just plug and play. But if that's true, what George is saying, and we have no reason to doubt him, that's pretty friggin' impressive. And that means we could even see like a better Christian McCaffrey.
Well, we see it on the cutbacks, right? The outside zone is all about recognizing when and where to make your one cut and go. And we see that with Christian McCaffrey a lot. He's going and it's looking like there's no hole, and then suddenly he cuts back and he finds daylight. And I mean, it's not that hard to have learned. It's, where's Trent Williams? Let me cut to his backside. That's like what he does. When he runs to the outside, it's to the left, and he cuts right behind Trent Williams almost every time.
And why wouldn't? Did you see the play, by the way, in the goal line last week? It was Trent Williams, Debo, and Juwan Jennings all on the left side on like the 3-yard line. And where did McCaffrey run? Right to the left side. It was like, holy hell, Kyle's just trying to murder people over there.
That really is a big reason why the Niners are so good in the run game. The wide receiver blocking. Ayuk is great at it. Jennings is great at it. Debo, when he cares to be, is pretty good at it.
He's a pretty good blocker.
When he wants to be, yeah. He's. I don't think he's on Ayuk's level or Jennings' level, but that might be the two best blocking wide receivers in the entire league.
Well, that's true. And I saw, I think it was Brad Graham or somebody put out a couple clips of Juwan Jennings just absolutely smashing people to the point where he ended up with a concussion in the game, unfortunately.
That's why he's around. Let's be honest. Like he's a decent receiver, but it's not like he's, oh, this guy's such a good receiver, I got to save a roster spot for him. No, it's because it's blocking that he's on the field.
Did you just burp on the pod?
I totally did. I told you, I'm still like very sick. I can barely breathe out of my nose right now because I'm talking so much. And that's making me try to be a mouth breather while I'm speaking. So
you've been a mouth breather for a lot longer than that. Matt Barrows had tweeted out a picture of the 49ers knockdown hat. Did you see this? It's a hard hat, like a construction hard hat, and it gets signed whenever a wide receiver delivers a clear pancake block in a game. And Juwan Jennings has signed it like at least 3 or 4 times.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. I want to see, like, I wish we could see the whole helmet. Like, they signed all the way around it rather than signing in the spot and then growing out from it. So it's hard to tell like exactly how many signatures are on there.
Ronnie Bell's on there at least once. Juwan Jennings is on there at least 1, 2, 3, 4 times. I can't see any of the other signatures, but it's such a good idea because it's just it's a little thing, but it's a thing that the receivers can latch onto and put their, let me just sign my name on the hard hat. They know, it's a way that they know that they're going to get recognized for that. That when they put in that kind of extra effort, that the team is going to notice it. They're going to acknowledge it. They're going to call it out. And it's a way to maintain the thing. I hate the word because everybody throws it around and they overuse it, but the standard, right? The expectation of This is your job, handle your job. And it's a great way to help with that.
It is. It's a great motivator. I mean, it's kind of it reminds me of more of like a throwback to the college, because college does that a lot. Like,
right.
You get Ohio State has the Buckeye stickers, right? For making a big play and things like that. Like, it's kind of like what they do in the college game and brought into the NFL, which is kind of cool. It's unfortunate that they don't count George Kittle in that though, because he would fill up that helmet. No,
that's true. He did say he likes blocking basically just as much as when he has to go out and catch a pass.
He said he likes it more.
That's what sparked the whole Christian McCaffrey conversation.
He said, obviously I like receiving. Who doesn't? But yeah, I like blocking. And he was asked by Rich Eisen which one he likes more. So I don't blame him. Do you like receiving the ball or do you like hitting people more?
Well, that's a tough question. Do you think that the Ravens will have the same kind of success running the ball against the 49ers that Arizona had?
No. They'll have success, but it will come from Lamar on scrambles. I do not think they're going to be able to run overly successful with their running backs. And unless Lamar has 150 yards by himself, I don't see them getting to that 230 range.
They're averaging for the season 5 yards per carry. Now, like you said, a lot of that is Lamar because he's just gashing people, but still pretty damn impressive. Let me flip it over now. Let's go to the Ravens rush defense. Do you think the Ravens will be able to slow down Christian McCaffrey? Because obviously that changes things a little for the 49ers if they can. I'm trying to look up real quick where the Ravens are in terms of rushing yards allowed. They're upper middle, I believe.
Christian McCaffrey, I think, will find success running the ball, or I should say enough. I don't think he's going to have a dominant game running the ball, not like last week, but he'll be effective enough. Where I think he'll be limited, I don't see him doing much as a receiver in this game. Baltimore is a good enough defense that has enough athletes to take him away.
The Ravens are 10th in rushing yards allowed, but they are first in points allowed per game. They're actually 0.6 of a point ahead of the 49ers. The Ravens allow 16.1 points per game. The Niners are at 16.7 after giving up 29 to Arizona last week.
Yeah, the Niners were number 1, and they just fell to number 2 because of last week.
A lot of that was bogus, though. The Niners were winning by like 4 scores going into the fourth quarter, I'll just say.
I mean, it all plays a role, right? It all adds up. It all plays a role. Like,
it all counts.
Right. It's not like Baltimore hasn't blown out some teams and then allowed a late garbage. I'm sure they have.
I haven't been paying close enough attention to Baltimore, but I'm going to assume it conflicts with what I said, so I'm going to say no, damn it.
That sounds like a very logical argument.
I'm nothing if not completely logical and right 100% of the time in all things. Let's be honest. Did you see this? I thought this was kind of funny. So the Ravens have only been underdogs in 2 games this year. I don't know the other game and then this game this year. And they asked John Harbaugh about that, and they were like, hey, have you talked about that with your team? And he's like, yeah, it may have come up, and he kind of smiled about it. But then Lamar Jackson's sitting there saying, oh, I love being underdogs. It's like, all right, which is it? Are you upset that you're not the favorite, or do you like being the underdog?
I mean, Lamar likes to be the underdog because he's been doubted over and over again. So that's kind of uniquely him, I would say. He's motivated by that type of thing.
He's so freaking good, man. Like, there was a world, let's not forget too long ago, there was a world where you and I were calling for the Niners to trade for Lamar Jackson because we
absolutely
knew, like, how good he was. Yeah. And I think, if I'm wrong, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I know I was of the belief that if you needed to trade Nick Bosa to get Lamar Jackson, that you should do it. And I stand by that.
Yeah. Now, in retrospect, Brock Purdy is so good, I would not do that now.
Well, yes, now, obviously.
Knowing what Brock Purdy is, I would not have gone for Lamar Jackson. But at the time, it was Brock Purdy's hurt. We have no idea what he's going to be. Trey Lance hasn't played. We have no idea what he's going to be. You absolutely go and get the young in the prime of his career MVP quarterback.
Right. The guy who literally already has an MVP, a unanimous MVP, I might add. But that's another thing, too. A lot of people, the Brock Purdy discourse continues. Every so often, I get people hit me up in my mentions. Hey, you wanted Trey Lance to start? Yes, I did. I'm not going to deny that. I absolutely did. We have more information on Brock Purdy than we had in July, right? We've seen him play more. We've seen him play at a higher level than he's ever played at before. So if you're not going to change your opinion on Brock Purdy, I feel like you've just decided what your opinion is, and it's never going to change ever again. Like, we have more information than we had after the 5 games in the regular season last year. If you don't change your opinion now, what's one more game going to take? Are
you listening, The Ringer? I mean, That's really the people that are keeping it up at this point. Pretty much everybody else has changed their opinion, and rightfully so.
I saw Stephen Ruiz, like, since you brought that up, of The Ringer, saying, well, this is different. It's not as good as what Kurt Warner did with the Rams, even though Brock Purdy's yards per attempt is rivaling the best yards per attempt of all time, which was Kurt Warner with The Greatest Show on Turf. And he had some highlights of Kurt Warner. And to be fair to Kurt Warner, he is ripping balls in there. Like, damn, like
Kurt Warner had a great deep ball.
Deep, accurate, great throws from Kurt Warner. But honestly, that's, I think, like what is giving some of these people pause is that Purdy is not throwing these laser fastballs all over the field. And so because of that, people think the throws are easy. People think that it's not like that. He's not making tight window throws. He is. He's not throwing 100-mile-an-hour fastballs, but that doesn't mean the throw is easy and that anybody can do it.
Yeah, I mean, he recognizes. I saw a chart today that was not wasting opportunities, and what the chart was is when there is somebody open, the play is a success from a design standpoint. Who succeeds the most in getting positive out of that play? And Brock Purdy was off the chart almost. He was way ahead of everybody else. And that's literally what he's elite at. That's what we've been saying. He's elite at processing. He's elite at seeing it, recognizing it, picking up on the little nuance. And you heard Kyle Shanahan say it 2 weeks ago. Well, he saw that Jamal Adams was flat-footed. So he knew Ayuk was going to go by him.
Debo.
Or was it Debo? Debo was going to go by him, right? That's like next level ability to process that doesn't show up on film. That's impossible to really scout pre-draft, but is like a truly special skill.
And it's crazy that we're still in a spot where we just look at how fast the ball is coming. And it's so funny because what was the criticism of Trey Lance, right? He throws the ball too hard. It's like, hold on. Wait a minute. So now you got one guy that's throwing it too hard and the other guy's not throwing it hard enough. It's like we always move the goalpost on these guys. But I just don't worry about what the Ringer is saying about Brock Purdy. And by the way, I'm telling you now, brace yourself. If the Niners lose this game to the Ravens, brace yourself for the Brock Purdy hot takes, right? Oh, they played a good team and he couldn't do it and blah, blah, blah. Even if he has a bad game, which, hell, maybe he will have a bad game. The Ravens have a good defense. Everybody has a bad game from time to time. I'm telling you, just brace yourself for those because they're coming. Because there are people that are just waiting like they were when Brock had the 3-game losing streak to say, see, he ain't it, 7th-round pick, no arm, blah, blah, blah. They're waiting in the weeds right now, waiting to see if the 49ers lose on Monday night.
They absolutely are. And I'm going to take that opportunity to segue into blowing your mind with some third quarter stats because they might not be mind blowing in a week if this week goes bad, right?
All right. You just shoehorned those in, but that's fine. Go ahead.
Yeah, I totally did. We're at 48 minutes. I figured you were going to forget.
I absolutely forgot.
I could tell. I could tell you were getting close to wrapping. See, I know you. So my thought was, because it stuck out when I was looking at it, we all have heard about Kyle Shanahan and how good he is at all the X's and O's. But when I saw this, it made me have the thought that he's the best halftime adjuster in the league. And what I saw, Brock Purdy is number 1 in the league in third quarter passing yards. That's not mind-blowing in of itself. His yards per passing attempt, right? He's currently setting the record for a season number at 9. It's 9.88 is what he's at. Rounds up to 9.99 or 9.9. In the third quarter, it's 13.2 yards per attempt.
What?
Number 1.
Per attempt, not per completion.
Correct. Per attempt. Do you know? So Pro Football Reference, which is what I use, their stat head, goes back to 1994. That's as far back as they go for splits like this. Do you know who has the all-time record for most third quarter passing yards in a season?
Is it Steve Young?
Matt Ryan, 2016. Yeah.
Interesting. Who was his offensive coordinator?
Yeah, Kyle Shanahan. So that's the point. But the really mind-blowing stats, So the first thing that jumped out to me, I wasn't even looking for it. I sorted by receiving yards because I was looking at rushing, I was looking at passing, I was looking at receiving. When I went to receiving, guess who is the highest for the 49ers, and they're fourth in the NFL this season in third quarter receiving yards?
I'm going to say Ayuk. Got to be Ayuk, I would imagine.
George Kittle, the only tight end anywhere close.
Wow. I would not have guessed that because there are some games where he just doesn't get a ton of targets.
Guess what his
Yards per reception.
completion percentage is when targeted in the third quarter.
Kittle's?
Yeah, this is kind of the unique part.
I don't know, 70?
85.7. He's not actually targeted more in the third quarter than other quarters. He has 21 targets in the third quarter this year. That's right around what he has in other quarters. It's that he completes so many and then he gets a bunch of yards on him. He has 331 yards in the third quarter this season. His yards per target in the third quarter is 15.8. That's yards per target. Sounds insane, doesn't it?
That is insane.
This is the most mind-blowing part. That's only fifth in the NFL this season. Take a guess at who's number one in yards per target in the third quarter.
I'm going to assume it's a 49er.
Take your guess.
Is it Ayuk?
Debo at 18.5.
Oh, man, 18.5.
Number two is Ayuk at 17.8.
Hold on. So you're telling me in the third quarter, yards per target, number one is Debo. Number two is Ayuk.
Yes.
And number 5 is Kittle?
Yes. It's freaking insane.
So Kyle Shanahan is basically taking the first half, examining it, looking at it, and he's like, okay, I'm going to do this, and I know exactly how to break you in the third quarter.
Yeah. And that's why in the fourth quarter, so many games have been out of reach by then. Because in the third quarter, they're destroying it. They've figured it out, and the defense has no chance.
That's really interesting. And look, we've heard Kittle talk about how Kyle calls plays that he doesn't necessarily think are going to be the most successful plays, but he's calling them to gain information, number one, and number two, to set up different things later on. So maybe the third quarter is when Kyle's like, all right, the trap has been set here. Let's spring this on them. And then they just go to work.
Right. And the George Kittle part of that is the key. He's caught 18 of 21 targets and has 331 yards on those 18 catches. So clearly there's like a key there at halftime that he knows, all right, Kittle is going to get open. And once we get that Kittle catch, everything else opens for the other guys too.
Interesting. Now I want to go back and look. The 49ers have scored at least 7 points in the last 3 third quarters. Going back, they didn't score any on Thanksgiving against Seattle. But I'm not seeing like a massive explosion of points in the third quarter. They got 14 against Tampa Bay.
They are tied for most touchdowns in the third quarter with 12.
They do have a lot of third quarters with 14 points, though. I will say that is kind of crazy. I'm going back and look.
They're limited in how many points they can put up because they keep the ball. You know what I mean? It's not necessarily quick strikes. And that's part of why, they're 32nd in pass attempts and they don't have a ton of offensive plays compared to other teams because they are a very slow playing team.
Yes and no. Like they can be, but they can also be explosive when Debo chunk or Kittle rips off a chunk. They can be, they're not like when people think of explosive, I think they think of like 50-yard bomb that's caught. They're not as explosive as like a 20-yard pass that then gets 30 yards after the catch.
No, you're not wrong. They have a lot of 20 to 30-yard plays, but they are a ball control team. And they do. I think the Niners are last in the league in terms of average plays in a game.
That would be.
I mean that total defense, offense combined.
All right, I'm going to wrap up the show because it looks like you're about to keel over, and I don't want to do that to you. I need you to rest up and be in relatively stable condition on Christmas Day.
Yeah, so, this went downhill quick. I actually feel better today than I have, and my nose has been completely fine all day long. And as soon as we started, it got stopped up, and that's making it very difficult.
Yes. So, all right, let's call it a show. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Apologies for not being live. Again, blame Levin. It's 100% his fault. Shout out to all the YouTube channel members out there. Thank you for being a YouTube channel member. If you want to become one, please do. It's less than $3 a month. You get custom emojis, you get membership badges, you get priority comment response. And if you want to pay $1 extra per month, you get early access to the 49ers in 5 every single weekday. That's our 5-minute daily 49ers update. Gets you up to speed on everything. And
who wants to listen to Rob's voice early?
It's not really me. It's a lot of clips from interviews and press conferences. So shut your mouth.
All right. You sold me.
And we should mention too, we haven't mentioned it. We'll be on 95.7 The Game Sunday mornings, 8 a.m. Pacific time, getting you ready for the Niners opponent that week. So make sure you tune in. It's not a rebroadcast of the pod. It's an original show that we do that you can only hear if you listen to 95.7 The Game. It's the gold standard hour. So please check that out. And thank you, Levin, for being willing to host that with me as well.
Oh, yeah. Such a tough decision. Hey, you're going to be on 95.7.
Well, some people may not want to be on the Bay Area's highest rated sports station. Some people do. I don't know. That's how I roll.
I got the sense on Twitter that Michelle does want
Who
to be.
wouldn't want to be on? Everybody wants to be on. I don't blame anybody that would want to be on. We are going to be on, again, 8 a.m. Pacific time Sunday. Please join us. Levin, thank you very much. Rest up, heal up that voice. Thank you, everybody. And we'll talk to you tomorrow.